It's going to be a rainy night in San Diego. An update on the latest storm and how long it will last. Sued and evicted. New trouble for a local horse rescue center that found itself under investigation.
I have to say, since I've been here, and it's only been 8 years, but a lot has changed in terms of how people treat each other. A lot of respect has been lost.
His days as a San Diego City Council member are coming to an end. Why David Alvarez says politics at City Hall has worsened in recent years.
The whole goal here is to keep those who are in crisis in the home and improve their lives.
And local first responders say a new plan to help people with Alzheimer's is working. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Ebone Monet. The latest storm system is expected to stay with us for a couple of days. This is what it looked like this afternoon in Pacific Beach. The rain is coming down across Southern California, which poses a risk for some areas that were burned by recent wildfires. Regina Miller has a closer look at the storm.
A system that has moved in is bringing burn scar mud flows to the area through tomorrow, and also some heavy rainfall. In fact, as we take a look at the satellite and radar over the last couple of hours, you can see some heavy rainfall here around Camp Pendleton and points northward here. It's going to be pushing southward into late and then for tonight as well. Here's our futurecast starting off at 6 p.m. You can see the heavier rainfall starting to push southward here for the late drive time. During the overnight hours, showers around, but then the next bout of some rain coming in for tomorrow. Here's our futurecast for tomorrow morning, and then as we go into tomorrow midday and afternoon, we're going to be dealing with rain and possibly some thunderstorms around as well. So as we take a look at what we expect here, we've got this Thursday soaker of a storm, and it's bringing mountain snows into parts of California. So 0.5 to an inch of rain in the metro area is expected through tomorrow. The western slopes of the mountains maybe as much as up to 2 inches there.
A new Alzheimer's response team in East County is so effective it could expand into other regions. KPBS health reporter Susan Murphy has details on the progress made by the county and first responders.
Emergency officials and law enforcement officers are increasingly responding to calls about people with dementia in crisis. The degenerative brain disease can cause disruptive or sometimes violent behaviors. Now, a new Alzheimer's response team is stepping in to steer people to appropriate services instead of emergency rooms or jails.
And that's what we're here today to announce. It's working.
San Diego County Supervisor Diane Jacob says the team was launched in June and has already responded to dozens of calls.
The whole goal here is to keep those who are in crisis in the home and improve their lives, educate the family and the loved ones that have the responsibility of taking care of these individuals.
The team consists of sheriffs, firefighters, and other first responders in Santee and Lakeside who are connected with social workers, clinicians, and other experts with the county's Department of Aging and Independent Services and Alzheimer's San Diego.
As you have heard, this pilot project has several goals.
LaShonda Gaines is one of 6 social workers on the team. She says when calls come in from emergency officials, she or one of her colleagues responds within an hour. They conduct crisis stabilization and assessments.
We're able to provide support services, advocacy, and put in resources in place to assure the family member who's going through this dementia crisis, we're able to then give them hope. They know that the social workers there to assist, that we will be there for at least up to 6 months.
The county has budgeted $1 million to fund the program. It's part of the Alzheimer's Project, the county-led initiative to find a cure and help families struggling with the disease. Susan Murphy, KPBS News.
Last night, we reported on the name change to the San Diego Sports Arena, but as Matt Hoffman reports, the deal raised questions about city-owned land in the Midway District.
San Diego City Council voted Tuesday to approve renaming the sports arena in the Midway District. Pechanga Arena San Diego was approved 7-2, but many of the council members seemed unhappy about the last-minute process.
I remember when we were discussing the naming rights for Qualcomm, it came to committee. This didn't. Why?
But I just feel like this one is not a great deal.
We're under the gun because of what? Why wasn't this discussed in committee last September when you knew that this deadline was coming here?
I don't know why it took so long. It's just very frustrating. It shouldn't be this way.
I just think this is a really dumb process, and I hope we change it.
The arena is privately owned, but sits on city-owned property. Under a 2002 operating agreement, the arena's management negotiates naming rights, which then requires council approval.
The city, under the operating, whether you like the operating agreement or not, has essentially no role in negotiating any type of sponsorship for naming rights for this facility.
Pechanga Resort and Casino will pay $400,000 a year for the naming rights. Out of that, the city will pocket 10%, or $40,000 a year.
This is not a large amount of money for the city, and I'm sure that there were good reasons why this arrangement was worked out in 2002. I would hope moving forward that we can make this cleaner.
The name Pechanga will be on the building until at least 2020. That's when the arena's lease with the city expires. A recently completed Midway Community Plan update calls for redevelopment of the land where the arena currently sits.
There's a lot of options that might be coming down the pike for the entire parcel.
Despite the push for redevelopment, the arena is trying to ink a deal to stay open through at least 2023.
I've had a lot of conversation with real estate assets about this extension over the last year and a half, 2 years. So it's not something we just started talking about. So we expect to be in front of the city within the next month with more details about that.
Currently, the San Diego Gulls, San Diego Sockers, and the new Seals lacrosse team call the arena home. That's in addition to 40 or so concerts a year. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
Councilmember David Alvarez will soon leave his job in San Diego's District 8. It's unclear what he'll do next. He lost his campaign for the San Diego Community College District Board. KPBS reporter Claire Tregesser sat down with Alvarez for this exit interview.
When I visited David Alvarez at City Hall on a rainy morning last week, his office was, frankly, a mess. He'd pulled everything down off the bookshelves, and it was now covering his desk. He and his staff were working to box up the documents that had gone through their office in the past 8 years. It would all be archived by the city clerk. I asked Alvarez if he's seen changes in how the council works together. He says it's varied over the years.
I still believe the council has not found its voice and its power in this co-equal branch of government with a strong mayor, strong council form of government. I think we've had little stints of strength in the council, but for the most part, a council that hasn't really had a vision for the city to try and have that balance of power with, along with the mayor. And it's good to have that tension. It creates for better conversations and solutions to problems. And I think it's been a lot of go along to get along still in this town. And I don't think that's good, definitely not for our communities. That's good for the big interests, the people who want to see stadiums built and convention centers expanded and things like that. But people who want potholes filled and sidewalks fixed or built doesn't really speak to them. And I think that's where the council really, when it finds that strength, we're going to see a huge shift in San Diego.
So I asked him why he thinks it's been like that, where the council is just going along to get along.
Well, because once you come into this building that you're in, into this floor that you're sitting here with me at, it becomes very insular, and people, it's like groupthink, and people just talk to the same people, often forgetting who they represent and how they got elected and what they were asked to do when they got elected. I think there's a lot of that. You saw that in some of the election results, honestly, and I think once that mentality changes, and I think electorally we're seeing that the people are demanding more of the representatives, then the response will be there.
In the election, the Labor Council and some of the unions backed Council President Myrtle Cole, who ended up losing, and Antonio Martinez, who also ended up losing. So I asked Alvarez if he sees a change in their influence in the city.
I don't know that I see a change. I think they represent voices that are important for us to listen to. Every voice is important for us to listen to, and they certainly represent, a voice that is important. But I think the message is, how do we always put community first? And how do we work with community as employee groups, labor unions, businesses, the corporate folks who were more involved perhaps in another election like in District 2. How do we really listen to the voice of the community and work with that rather than impose our views and impose what we believe is best for them? I think that's the message from this election.
Last year, Alvarez said he was running for county supervisor and started raising money. But recently he told Voice of San Diego that he was reconsidering. So I asked him where he was at in the decision now.
What it comes down to for me is, can we have government that really reflects community? And can we have a government that's going to function? I have to say, since I've been here, and it's only been 8 years, but a lot has changed in terms of how people treat each other. A lot of respect has been lost in when you disagree. There has been a lot of behavior that we wouldn't think is okay of our children in a school, on school ground, backstabbing and bullying. And I'm not saying I was a victim to that, but I certainly don't ever want to be associated with that. For me, it's really about making the community a better place. And for a lot of people, it's become almost like a game of how do I win and how do I gain power over you. And that's not what it's about for me. And so I'm hoping that my time away, which is going to be seriously away from this, allows me to just reflect on whether I can be part of reestablishing that ethic that I think is required in government, and can I be effective at it?
For now, Alvarez is planning on starting a business that will focus on cross-border relations. Claire Tregesser, KPBS News.
You can hear the full interview with Alvarez and listen to it on the KPBS podcast, San Diego Stories.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, a nation mourns a president. We have special coverage of the funeral of George H.W. Bush. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
High Caliber Horse Rescue, which has faced animal cruelty and fraud allegations for months, is being evicted from its Valley Center ranch. And as iNews Source reporter Brad Racino tells us, it's facing a multi-million-dollar lawsuit.
Brenda Markstein filed the lawsuit last week, alleging breach of contract, trespassing, and negligence. Markstein's trust owns the 16-acre property and has leased it to High Caliber since September 2014. The suit names the Valley Center nonprofit and its founders, Michelle Natilla and Romney Snyder, and seeks more than $4 million in damages. Markstein was also awarded a judgment to evict Natilla and residents of the ranch last month. iNews Source's investigation of High Caliber has uncovered Natilla's use of donor funds for personal expenses, claims by 4 former board members that they never saw the organization's financial statements, questions about the group's fundraising practices, and claims by former volunteers of a cover-up to conceal a dangerous equine disease outbreak at the ranch. Now, Natilla has denied the allegations and refused to speak to iNews Source since March. Snyder, High Caliber's co-founder, told us today she had no comment. Markstein's lawyer said the San Diego County Sheriff's Department will carry out the eviction, but declined to say when that will happen. For KPBS, I'm iNews Source reporter Brad Racino.
iNews Source is an independently funded nonprofit partner of KPBS. Nearly a month after the campfire started in Northern California, some evacuees are being allowed to return to their neighborhoods. The fire destroyed 14,000 homes and killed at least 85 people. County officials are warning people not to move back into any homes that are still intact. Services are limited and work continues on removing ash and hazardous waste from the area. Scientists at the climate conference in Poland say they're discouraged by new numbers on global emissions. The Global Carbon Project says carbon dioxide levels will rise by nearly 3% this year. Carbon dioxide is the gas that's linked to the rise in global temperatures. The increase follows several years of minimal growth. Climate scientists say the increase might put goals for the Paris Climate Accord out of reach. Earlier this year, a plan to increase housing near transit stops struggled to earn support at the state capitol. With a new legislature in place, Capitol Public Radio's Randall White says advocates will try again.
The opposition to the plan this year was strong. The bill didn't even make it out of its first committee. This time around, Senator Scott Wiener of San Francisco has repackaged it with more support.
So we've definitely made progress.
Wiener says his team has worked with constructive critics in order to shape a better bill. Co-authors this time around have geographic and political diversity. He says the massive amount of housing needed in California shouldn't be planned under the old solution that created urban sprawl.
Which means we clog up our freeways, people have to drive long distances, and we cover up farmland and open space, and we build in wildfire zones. And that's not sustainable.
His plan is to ensure housing is built near employment centers and transit hubs. Many previous critics were supportive of that goal, but concerned about issues including local zoning control and the loss of housing for low-income groups. Laura Raymond with the Alliance for Community Transit in Los Angeles was one of those critics. Her group hopes to be included in the process this time.
We plan to engage with the Senator's office on this bill. We feel really strongly that equity groups need to be at the table. We'll continue to voice concerns as we have them, and there are some unresolved issues with the bill.
The bill was introduced on Monday and can't be acted on until next month. In Sacramento, I'm Randall White.
Environmental advocates with the Audubon Society have a plan to restore large portions of wetlands in Mission Bay. As Eric Anderson reports, a public viewing of this plan is set for later this week.
The extensively researched document offers 3 suggestions to city planners who are reshaping the area. San Diego is considering changing the northeast corner of the bay, in part to improve public access. Campland on the bay could move to De Anza Point, freeing up a large plot of land that will likely become wetlands. The Society's Conservation Director Jim Pugh says that'll create habitat for wildlife and add value to the area. And he says the Society is suggesting 3 alternatives with one that closely resembles the city's preferred redevelopment option.
And that would allow Rose Creek to connect with Kendall Frost Marsh, which is a big benefit. And another alternative, both Campland and the De Anza Point would be converted to wetlands, as well as Dana Cove, but that's the extreme alternative.
Pugh hopes the study will be incorporated in the redevelopment plan being prepared for the City Council. Planners are currently working on a document that will get an environmental review before the proposal is sent to city officials. That could happen sometime next year. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
Well, as we take a look at what we can expect, we've got the heavier rain, especially as we go into tomorrow as well. We're going to see some thunderstorms around for tomorrow. Total rainfall amounts, we're talking about a ½ an inch up to an inch possible around the metro areas, western slopes of the mountains. We could see some spots locally up to 2 inches of rainfall there. So taking a look at the satellite and radar, you can see some of that heavier rain pushing across Camp Pendleton down towards Oceanside. It'll be dropping southward. Here we are at your drive time, and we'll be dealing with that rain around La Jolla, San Diego, down to Chula Vista as well. During the overnight hours, we may see it more in the form of some off and on showers or rain around. And then tomorrow we've got another bout that's coming in. Some of that's going to be heavier midday on into the afternoon, and that is going to cause some problems for travelers, maybe some ponding on roadways and some flooding in poor drainage areas. San Diego, we're at 58 tonight with the rain, and then down towards Chula Vista could see see some heavier rain into tonight at 57 degrees. Periods of rain and 58 in the metro areas. For Thursday, we have that threat for some flash flooding because some heavier downpours as the storms come through, and then burn scar mud flows are a problem, so expect some travel delays. Our forecast for tomorrow, 67 in San Diego, into Ramona, we're at 58 degrees. And then as we head towards the weekend, Friday on through the weekend, drier conditions on the way. So in the coastal locations, rain, a thunderstorm, and a temperature of 65 for your Thursday. Friday, partly sunny and 68. We've got a good deal of sunshine around for Saturday and 69 degrees. Inland areas, rain and a thunderstorm on Thursday at 63. And then for Friday, partly sunny 68, a little warmer then as we head into the weekend with some sunshine. On Thursday in the mountain locations, showers 43 degrees. Decrease in clouds then by Friday. Things start to dry out and mostly sunny for your Saturday, and 50 degrees, 53 on Sunday and partly sunny. I'm Regina Miller, KPBS News.
3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition, liftoff.
Today in Florida, SpaceX launched a resupply mission to the International Space Station. The California company has worked with NASA more than a dozen times on projects like this. Nearly 3 tons of supplies are heading to the space station crew, including turkey, cranberry sauce, and other foods for a traditional Christmas dinner. Tonight, we look at the festival of Hanukkah. The 8-night celebration is filled with symbolism, especially at the dinner table. KPBS Midday co-host Jade Hindmon spent time in the kitchen with the co-director of Chabad of Chula Vista.
Well, I'm here in the kitchen with Miss Musty Begun. She is the co-director of Chabad Chula Vista, and we're going to talk about Hanukkah, we're going to talk about latkes, and we're going to talk about how it all became tradition.
Yes, thank you for joining me, Jade.
Yes, so we've got all this great stuff out. Tell me, where do we start with making latkes, and what are they?
What are they? So latkes are potato pancakes, and we just make a combination of potatoes, onions, eggs, flour, salt, and pepper, and then we fry them off to commemorate the miracle of the oil. So we'll start with just grating 3 russet potatoes.
Okay, and does it matter what kind of potato you use?
No, you can use whatever you prefer. And you can also use a box grater or any other kind of grater that you have. I'm using a food processor, but box graters work, especially when you're doing a small amount.
Oops. All right, and it looks like it's just about 3. So how many can you make with 3 potatoes?
I would say about a dozen.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're gonna get the potatoes in here, and then I already grated half an onion, so that's right here. Again, I used a white onion. You can use a yellow onion.
All right.
I have a 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour.
All right.
2 eggs that we checked for blood, and I'll grab a teaspoon of kosher salt, some freshly ground black pepper.
All right. Now I noticed applesauce. Is that applesauce?
Yeah, that is applesauce.
Okay, how does that fit into the recipe?
I don't know where it came from, but some people just love their latkes with applesauce, and it kind of became tradition.
Kind of a sweet and savory thing. Okay.
Personally, I prefer the sour cream.
Okay.
But some people are just crazy over it, and so that's how they like it, so that's how we serve it.
All right.
Okay, we're gonna head over to the oil.
All right.
I'm gonna grab a spoon, and we'll just chug them in.
So, and we're going to put these in the oil, but what's the story behind the oil?
Okay, so the story behind the oil is back when the Maccabees won over their Greek oppressors, they came to the temple and they wanted to light the menorah. And they only found 1 little jug of oil that was enough to last for 1 night. But when they lit it, it miraculously stayed lit for 8 nights, which was how long it would take to produce new pure oil. And so to commemorate that miracle, we eat foods fried in oil. So one of the foods we eat is potato latkes, and right over here you'll see we have some donuts, and then I have some other Hanukkah treats. Different people make different kinds of latkes. You can make sweet potato latkes, zucchini latkes, whatever you like. So kind of just spoon them in. They don't need to be even. The little crispy bits that fly off are actually the best part.
And once they take on that golden brown color with crispy edges,
yeah,
you know they're done. And you can also tell they're done by the smell too. You can really smell that onion in there.
So we can step over and we can try them while those fry.
Let's fry up, okay.
So here we have a plate. Let me grab you a fork. There you go.
All right, thank you very much.
And if you like some applesauce,
I will try them with applesauce. Let's
go
see.
for it.
Okay, all right, so we'll grab this one right here. We'll just stick that with a fork. Like we know what we're doing here. The applesauce, is it a side or on top thing?
People like it on top.
Oh, okay, well then if
Try
that's what
it.
we're doing, then it's going on top. Okay. And these are, it's crisp on the outside and then really kind of like a potato cake on the inside, like
That's
you
what
said.
it is, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a potato pancake.
Yeah, okay. That's good.
I know, they're really yum. We eat them all year, we love them. But I don't always fry them. I make them sometimes as a big kugel, like a cake in the oven. So same recipe, just pop it in the oven, a little bit healthier.
Well, Miss Musty Begun, thank you so much for inviting us into your kitchen.
Thank you for coming.
And sharing the story of Hanukkah with us.
My pleasure.
We appreciate it.
Happy Hanukkah. Happy Hanukkah to everybody.
Thank you.
Now, here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. On Morning Edition, a profile of the latest holiday performance by the San Diego Opera, All Is Calm, the Christmas Truce of 1914. And on Midday Edition, great second acts in praise of older women. We'll have an interview with the author of a new book that profiles women who are succeeding later in life. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.